Welcome back to the Investor Professor podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 156, our last episode of 2024, our year-end special. Cameron is joining me today. We're going to talk about the market, 2024, what a great year it's been. We'll start looking at 2025, look at some of the themes that we think are going to happen over the next year. We'll talk about our goals, setting goals, holding each other accountable, having an accountability partner. Hopefully it'll help you. As always, if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that setting goals is important for me. And as we always discuss, invest in yourself mentally, physically, financially. And so we will go over that, discuss those things. And as always, get your mind right and let's get to work. Well, welcome back, everybody. Cameron, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me back. Happy holidays.
I think you're a mainstay. I don't think you have to, I don't even know why I introduced you anymore. So end of 2024. That's it, man. This is it. This is the last episode of the year.
We're creeping up.
So, do you know how many episodes recorded this year?
100. This year?
This year. This is episode 156.
The one thing about you is you're pretty steady. Like you really get one a week.
I know, but I wasn't this year.
But what? You missed 3?
No. I think this is 32 episodes for the year. Which is a big, like in 2023, I did 42. So wow. I gotta be a little bit more consistent.
Well, this year you probably had more viewership, right? Or a listener? Yeah. Well, it's because you had that new co-host, right? Or that new person joined.
Yeah, that's right. But the other thing too is I fight, like I don't want to do an episode if I feel like I don't have something to say. So I don't want to do like filler episodes. But this is not a filler episode. This is into 2024. So we'll look back at the market, look ahead to 2025, what we think is going to happen, and then we'll talk about our goals. All those things, habits, all the things that we discussed to try to make, to make next year good. So, but I wanted to start with gratitude. So I want to talk to you about what are you thankful for 2024?
That's tough because there's so many things. I think the one thing, and this is probably top of mind because I was thinking about it today, but just meeting so many cool people.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this year I met a lot of cool people because I either look to start a conversation with somebody that maybe I wouldn't have prior, whether it's like flying, right? You're on a plane, you sit next to somebody, you got 2 hours.
Right.
Like don't talk to them for all 2 hours because maybe somebody doesn't like that, but talk to them a little bit, figure out what their story is. So right. I did a lot of that this year. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, that's good. I should probably do more of that. I'm probably like...
You fly more than I do.
Yeah, but sometimes like flying is like my time type of deal. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like I don't know, as you get older, it's so weird. Like, so we're 17 years apart and I always laugh at like some of the things that are just the distance between like 17 years, but sometimes there's things that like, that you do versus me or whatever, it's kind of comical really. But, it's weird. Like when you have kids and stuff, and especially when my girls were younger, like when I'd fly, it's like my chance to actually watch a movie that I wanted to watch instead of like Trolls.
Yeah.
So, but for me, my number one for 2024, and this is a very personal thing, but like my daughter Hannah's scoliosis surgery.
That's right.
Going well in, I guess it would be March. So like that is easily for this year, the thing I'm absolutely most grateful for.
That's awesome.
So what else did you put on your grateful sheet?
I think I learned a lot of good lessons, and I'm not going to try to give you too many kudos here, but one of the big ones is just, and this is going to be more funny than anything, but keep it simple, stupid. Like at the end of the day, because my personality type is I like to, go into the details on things. And I think because we spend more time around each other, I've learned at the end of the day, making things simple, whether it's setting your goals, like full circle moment. Right. First time I was on this podcast. Yeah. I haven't listened to that episode in a while, but I bet you that person that showed up on that podcast is a little different than the one today.
Yeah.
Because there's bliss in simplicity. And I think I learned that this year.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful.
Yeah. The being complicated just to be complicated is, and we see that, like, you just see that all the time with finances, like so much where like people outthink themselves so much.
So the only thing I would add to that is not just finance, but it's broader than finance. Like it's across multiple industries.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because like I say it at the end of every podcast, but it's the don't mistake activity for achievement.
Yeah.
Where people feel, I think just naturally we feel like if we have activity or we're doing something or we're looking busy or whatever, that we're making progress. And that goes for your personal life too.
Yeah.
Like just so many different areas where like, I think we like to feel busy because it makes us feel like there's some level of achievement there. But like people are just busy to be busy, like they're not really doing much.
Yeah.
And I think that happens with a lot of times where like we like motion, like people like motion. I don't know how else to say that, but like, I don't know. I think people want to feel like they're accomplishing something. And so that helps them.
Yeah.
Some
it's
validation
like
there.
Self-validating, right?
But you see it everywhere. You see it at the gym. You see it in people's finances. You see it like...
It's tough. It's tough to like rid yourself of that kind of habit, I think.
Well, you have to call it like it's the only thing that you really have to hold yourself accountable to. Like other people, like if you tell me you're busy, like I'm not really going to call you on. Like, most people aren't going to call somebody on and be like, you really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. It's like, what does that mean? So what goal for you?
So the other grateful thing I put on here, like grateful buying an office space. Grateful to meet Guy Spear was one, to actually be able to meet a mentor. And then weirdly, as I get older, one of these is staying physically in shape.
There you go.
Because it gets, as you get older, it's hard. Like it takes a concentrated effort to not just be like, screw it, I'm just going to wear sweatpants for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I mean, you have the perspective I don't, but I think there's a part of it too where it's not the laziness, but you have so much. This is the thing about you. I don't know how you get everything in your day. Like you have so many things that you do. So the fitness piece of it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you run out of time, that's usually the first thing to go.
Yes.
One of the first things.
Correct.
Right? But just making time for it and the way you're able to put it all in one day.
It's just, it has to be a conscious choice. Like it has to be something that's a priority. I will say, like, honesty train coming in here. Like I have gotten in trouble on previous jobs where like I would go work out during lunch and I'd come back late and they would say something to me or whatever. But for me, it's such a mental, like I have to have that time to basically like to yourself or whatever. And there's a lot of people that listen to this, moms, dads, like, for a lot of people who work out, like that is their personal, like they might not get any other hour in the day that is theirs.
Does your new boss let you go at lunch?
Yeah, my new boss is pretty cool.
He's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
That's good.
He's bald, but he's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you have to protect that time. And you like, as you get into like your late 20s and 30s, like that is an easy time where people don't get in shape. And then we might as well talk about it because, all the New Year's resolutions that people are going to make. But it's not like you can decide at like 54 years old, I'm going to be in shape. Like I'm going to like make this happen. Like if you've been out of shape for a decade, man, it just gets harder and harder. And so, and you'll see it. You go to the gym. I mean, in a couple of days, it's going to be free for all.
Mm-hmm. I think it's funny though, because as I'm hearing you talk about this, there is a perspective from the younger generation where there is a little bit of that, even if you're younger and you don't have all those responsibilities. Like they always say your 20s are your learning years. Like work hard, work often. So oftentimes, like I have friends in IB investment banking where it's common to gain a bunch of weight in your first year because you're not working out or whatever. You're just not prioritizing it. But if there's one thing that I think I've seen you do really well is that hitting your goal doesn't start the day that you like start that mission. Like you got to start building that habit early on.
Yeah.
So having it and keeping it when you're younger, right? I think allows you to be more dedicated to it, even when the responsibilities start adding up.
Yeah, I mean, I was an athlete growing up, believe it or not. I was an athlete, and so like I just never stopped working. But probably if you ask me, like in my life when I was most out of shape was probably like when I was 25 years old. Like when I got out of college,
Yeah,
and I started working for the first time, went back to do my MBA. Like, I mean, I was just trying to figure life out. It was hard. Like that was a hard time to, didn't have a lot of money, you know, that kind of thing where you're like, okay, you know, so there's just all these things happening where it was just kind of a difficult time. But I also noticed that, like, you know, mentally I needed it.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like physically being fit, being able to do different things. I'm definitely thankful for. So what do you think of the market in 2024? So a couple things, back-to-back 20-year, well, unless tomorrow's a disaster, but back-to-back 20% gains for the S&P 500. Yeah. It'll only be the 7th time since 1957 since that's happened. And by the way, fun fact, the S&P 500 was created in 1957.
Oh, wow.
So only the 7th time that's ever happened. So we've had 2 really good years. So what's your perspective on the market this year?
My first thought when you drop, because you didn't share that with me before the podcast.
That's
so
right.
I'm like thinking through it right now.
Right.
I wonder if you surveyed the market participants, like whether it's retail or maybe not institutional, but probably retail, if they would feel it, if they feel that, like, hey, we've had 2 great years, or if this year has just been an absolute roller coaster. Most people think about the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So they may, you know, kind of in their mind, not mental accounting, but downgrade this year in their head. But really, it was a good year.
It was a great. So we had in the S&P 500, we had 57 new all-time highs.
Yeah, that's wild.
Which is wild, right? I think that it doesn't feel that way for a lot of people because of the way that social media portrays things.
Yeah.
And so even though you have a really good year, it doesn't feel like you had a really good year. And everybody's always thinking about the next year. But I think so this year, a couple things that caused it, probably artificial intelligence, AI, the amount of money that the Mag 7 spent on, you know, NVIDIA's chips and all that infrastructure and all that being brought about. Number 2, there was inflation that was kind of kept under wraps mostly for the year. And then 3, like the one thing that I was wrong about was that volatility actually wasn't as high as it probably most people would have thought in a presidential election year. Like we really didn't have as much as we did previously. And I'm not sure if that's because of you kind of knew what you were going to get, Trump versus Biden or Harry. Like, you know, I mean, you kind of, but there really wasn't as much as normal. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward. But the market, GDP for the U.S. was up 3%, which was a strong number. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are a lot of tailwinds, but what are your thoughts on 2025? What are you nervous about? What are you hopeful for?
I think it's tough because going back to what you're talking about, the social media bias, watching CNBC today, everyone talked about price to perfection. So I'm thinking a lot about that. Mm-hmm. Like, are we priced to perfection when it comes to some of these PE ratios for like, you know, some of these bigger companies like NVIDIA and places like that? That's got me a little bit just curious because I feel like there is a lot of attention on this AI piece and there's a lot of attention on tech. And is that attention that is going to be persistent? Is it going to continue? And is it going to be a healthy growth or is it going to get out of hand?
I think this 2025 will be the year for AI. Are you making money on your investment?
Yeah. Investors are going to get tired of waiting.
Correct. So, you know, I think the number is something like the Mag 7 is set to spend like $300 billion this year on AI. And so I think
Tesla's probably making up a lot of that.
Yeah, but it goes back to like our conversation we had a couple of weeks ago where it's like, are you having to spend that money to stay competitive or are you going to be able to actually like increase your earnings? But earnings for companies has been good. Like retained earnings has been good. Mm-hmm. So, but I think like, are you able to make a profit off of your AI spend will definitely be a theme in 2025.
At what point do you think, if you had to guess, not going to hold you to it, but
I would say second or third quarter. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure. Like the first, like this quarter is going to be really like what's happened in October, November, December.
yeah.
So kind of the Christmas quarter, I'm not really sure, but I think mid-year for sure it'll be like, have you made a turn? Like for Microsoft, for example, like are people signing up for Copilot? Are you seeing more, adoption on that? I think that will be part of the AI theme for next year.
Yeah, I see that happening. I always think about companies like Waymo, the
Self-driving.
the self-driving taxi.
Part of Google, yeah.
Yeah, like I was in LA not too long ago, and there was Waymos driving around.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's going to be because that marketplace. There was another competitor, I forget the name of it, but they shut down completely.
Right.
So now it's kind of like, what do you got? Like
Yeah.
you're the last one standing. Really, have substantial market share. What do you got? Is this going to stick, or is this
Right.
going to be we're all going to go back to Uber?
Yeah, I think there'll be that. I think there'll be interest rates again. Do interest rates, like, is the Fed going to hold interest rates where they're at? Are they going to drop them? It's going to be the unemployment rate. And then you have Trump 2.0. So everything starts to change on January 20th. What are Trump's initiatives going to be? Most people are expecting them to be business friendly, deregulation, but there's also a big worry on tariffs and the impact that can have on the economy.
Do you think, because we've talked about this, so I'm kind of leading the witness here, but do you think that there is going to be a good sized reaction, a decent sized reaction from the market on the decisions that are made by Trump in February? Or do you think it's going to be, and I'm kind of giving you like an A, B, or C here, but
Right.
like and again, I'm a younger crowd. He has been very active. I mean, there's a White House in Florida, it feels like, that he's doing all this stuff.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's going to curb out that reaction a little bit, because it's not like day one, everything, decisions are made. He's making decisions like right now, or at least he's leading them to be.
Yeah, it's the speed at which those decisions are made.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, that's my worry, or my concern, I guess, on the tariff stuff. Is it like across the board, or do we, because that has a real big impact. I mean, just the dollar going up since Trump was elected, it was like how much the dollar is appreciated. I mean, if you're an international company, that's a big number. I mean, it's a huge number as far as like, people in other countries aren't able to buy as much. So, I mean, it is a concern for sure. I think, and then you have Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, you have Elon Musk. I mean, you have all of those things. So we know, like, we've done this long enough that we know that the market doesn't really like uncertainty. We have, 2 years that have been really good. Are people going to start taking profits and being like, hey, I'm going to take my profits off the table and I'm going to grab a bucket of popcorn and I'm just going to watch this from the couch?
Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I
You
don't
get
know.
a percentage on it.
So yeah, the worry is okay, let's say you have some big gains over the last couple of years. You sell it, do you pay the taxes? Because if you sell it and pay the taxes, long-term capital gains, let's say it's 20%. So you're paying 20% right away if you sell.
Yeah.
Minimum, unless you have an IRA or whatever, but talk to your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. All those things. But if you sell, like in a regular brokerage account, you're going to pay 20% capital gains taxes. So is the market going to drop 20%? I don't know. Maybe it drops 10. I mean, there'll probably be a 10% correction at some point next year. It'd be a healthy thing if it did. So you're probably going to get some type of pullback, but crazy stat time that I did not warn Cameron for this one.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, so this data is from Peter Lynch, who I really like, but it's old data. But he did it from 1965 to 1996. Okay?
Okay.
There's a book he did called Learn to Earn. How much do you think somebody outperformed if they bought at the low of the market every year versus the high of the market every year between those dates? So we bought high versus buying low. How much do you think somebody...
Okay, well, this is where I'm going to put the behavioral hat on a little bit. I would think there'd be a big divide, obviously, but the way you're phrasing the question is leading me to believe there isn't.
Yeah, 1.1%.
Yeah, okay. Wow. How? Why? Give me something.
It just doesn't make that big a difference over time.
Between buying the high and buying the low?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Is that so? That's geared towards dollar cost averaging. I'm
Correct.
assuming. Yeah.
Yes, that's geared.
So
yeah.
you would contextually that would have to be your practice in order for it to be that way.
It's basically saying it's better to be a participant,
yes,
than it is to just try to time the market.
That I totally agree with you 100%.
Because the thing is, like, and I think about because of the questions I get asked by clients and all of those things, that there is more money lost waiting on the next correction than in corrections.
Yeah, it's time in the market, not timing the market. I do agree with you on that. I think it's a habit you got to build, right? Because the dollar cost averaging, right? You kind of have to. You're buying in at those times where it's higher than usual, or where you get a little worried or whatever. That's the emotional piece where you kind of got to fight it.
Yeah, and when you time the market, you got to be right twice. You got to be right when you sell, and you got to be right when you buy it back.
I would think too, and this is just kind of a thought I'm having right now, but this next year would not be the year to try to time the market. Like with Trump in office, I feel like, prime example, we go from that SoftBank thing that they had, that press conference.
Right.
All of a sudden, you just increased the AI budget, the AI spend by another 50% because Trump put the guy on the spot.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much of that is going to move the market?
Yeah. Well, and it happens all the time. You zig and the market zags. I will say too, though, what does worry me is when you have the market at all-time highs, people have margined their accounts. That has gone up 34% over this time last year of people borrowing money to invest. So if we do have some kind of correction, sometimes those get a little worse because people are getting washed out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it goes back to, and this is something Guy Spear talked about when I was talking to him, is about like just the practice of investing. Like just think about, putting money back. Don't think about, because there are so many times, like there is going to be a correction at some point. It's not something that should surprise you. It's healthy for the market to have some type of correction. But again, it doesn't mean you should change your strategy. You should do all these things because over time, you really don't notice as much. And I am very adamant that, the accounts that I manage and the ones that did really well this year, they did really well because of the discipline we had in 2022. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because of something we did a year ago or a month ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. It is the decisions that we made in 2022 when the market was getting beat up and we held the line and we held good companies and those prevailed. So those decisions are what made a good 2023 and a good 2024.
And that, I think, is going to be difficult to keep in front of your mind this next year. Because some of these positions, like say you're holding Palantir, bought at $8 a share. Right. Now it's trading at a level where it's like, oh my gosh, we did really well. Yeah. And people think about pain more than they think about gain. Right.
Of course. Yeah.
So when there is a little bit of a correction or just a healthy step back in the market, right? There is, I know you get the text, I get the text. Hey, do we sell? Like, what do we do here? This is not good. Right. And it's because I feel like, we've had such a good run. There is a fear of like, I'm going to be the next guy or girl that we had this run and we should have sold. We should have sold or whatever, right? But you got to keep telling yourself the pain is only going to be realized when you ring the bell. Mm-hmm. And if you don't ring the bell, and I'm not talking about, Pepe or whatever, like that's a little different. Yeah. No sinking ship fallacy here, but the thought of like when you're in these companies and Amazon has a little bit of a pullback and you're thinking about selling because it had a 4% down on one day. I don't know. I think that would be something that you'd regret at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, you have two really good years and next year could be muted. I mean, it could be, it could be a muted year where I'm not saying we don't go up. I'm not saying we go down. I mean, I don't know. Like, I really, really don't know. I know that if companies are making good money, I know that if inflation stays in check, if, unemployment stays low and people are still working, they're still spending, I mean, we have the opportunity to have, a decent year. But there are some things out there that could obviously change that. And so it's just one of those things. It always comes back to investing in good companies that if they were to go down, you'd want to buy more. I mean,
that's a good sign that
you're
in it for the right reasons.
that I'm in the right stuff. Like, so I ask myself that if this stock went down, would I want to buy more? And, you have to know what you're invested in. You have to be comfortable with what you're investing in. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll be talking about it next year. So what are some goals for you for 2025? I know one of them.
You know one of them?
I know. This is
we'll
what
start
happens.
out with that.
Well, this is what happens. What is the joke? You hang out around the bar. I shouldn't make this joke. If you hang out around the barbershop, you're eventually going to get a haircut.
You hang around the barbershop long enough, you're eventually going to get a haircut.
That's right. So what are we doing in 2025?
We are running a marathon.
Yes, we are running a marathon.
Which marathon are we
together?
running?
Which one is it?
Oh, it's the London Marathon.
London Marathon in April. What do you know the date?
No,
25th,
27th.
27th.
Yeah.
We gotta hire somebody just to look that up. No.
Producer.
Something like that. So London Marathon in April.
And I'm not a runner. Like when I met you, I thought about this the other day when I was running my 7.5 miles or whatever this plan's got me on.
Right.
I am not a runner. Never have been, but it's one of those things where you're not good at it, so you lean in, and then you kind of just lose. You just start enjoying it. I'm enjoying the process right now.
Okay.
So I've done the half marathon.
That's right.
And it mostly is because I think you talked me into it at one point at the Cowtown. Showed up the first day, didn't train at all. Zero training. Even worse than that, I show up, I'm wearing a jacket, a zip-up jacket.
Yeah.
Run that, I died. I don't remember what time I got, but I remember it sucked. I've done that 3 times. And then I don't know when you brought this up to me, this idea of the London Marathon, but it happened to hit 2 of my goals. I wanted to go check out London. That's been on my list for a while. And I want to run a marathon. So, we're going to do them both.
840,000 people applied. So, we got some of those spots. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. So Cameron, we talked about, how long did we talk about this for?
Knowing me, it was probably,
6
almost
weeks,
as long as me buying the truck.
Yeah. So it was a while. And finally I was like, Cameron, sometimes you just got to jump, man. You just got to jump. Just a little bit of blind faith. So I cannot wait to have the re-recording after we do this. The nice thing too is so it's in April, which I enjoy doing something big earlier in the year.
Yeah. Oh, so I figured that one out.
So So
3 years in a row.
So it gives you momentum going into the year.
You got to keep that momentum though. That's the thing.
You got to keep that momentum. You got to keep that momentum. So I mean, that's a huge physical goal for sure. But it's also, here's the thing. People think marathons are a physical challenge.
It's mental.
It is just as much a mental challenge as it is a physical challenge.
Yeah. Even more so, it is a measure of consistency, I think.
Yes.
Shout out Cheryl. She put the running plan together for me. I would be off the cuff running when I felt like, and that would have been the wrong thing. Yeah, you think? Yeah. So now I got this plan, and it is 4 days a week, no joke.
Right.
And y'all are on me. Right?
Yeah.
We got to do these 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So it is a measure of how consistent were you up for the 4 months leading up to it.
Yeah. Because when you don't realize it, but when you do the marathon, when you show up and do the marathon, that's almost the celebration.
Yeah. You say that, but I haven't felt that yet.
Yeah. I don't. It doesn't. It's not really probably going to feel that way, but it is because you at least get to run with a bunch of people who have been training in the dark by themselves for so many months, right? It's really about putting the time in. So
I'm excited about it. I really am. I have no idea what that's going to be like. We're just starting out the training, but
yeah.
I know myself.
It'll be fun to do a recording afterwards.
Yeah. So what? Just out of curiosity, so we get it, recorded.
Yeah. What time?
What's the time you're going for? Hey, and you be bold. Be a little bold. Remember, push yourself.
Let's say 4:30. 4:30.
4:30. Okay.
Well, maybe like so. I will like. I like to take pictures while I do these. But okay. I think I can still do that.
Well, that's an excuse.
Yeah, it is an excuse. But it is. But like, think about it. When are you? I mean, I'm not going to be a Boston qualifier. I'm not winning any
3 hours.
Money.
Yeah.
For me to Boston qualify is like 3 hours and 10 minutes, which I would need roller skates in order to make that happen.
That's funny.
But so for me, if I like pass something in London, I'm gonna take it just like when I did Berlin. Like I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna enjoy it. Like I'm gonna savor it.
That's a good point.
I'm gonna savor it.
I wish I was like that. I'm probably not going to be.
Yeah, I mean it's fine, but like, but you have to understand too. Like, when are you gonna get to run through a city like London with a police escort? You're gonna get to go to parts of the city you'll never get to go to again, and so it's one of those things like you have to savor it because it is such a short, finite thing of being able to do something like that.
Agreed. No, I've never been to. I've only been out of the country one other time. So to go to London.
Yeah.
When I told
you need to work on the accent.
The accent.
I'm just kidding.
When I this is I guess on the personal side, but I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm doing the London Marathon. She said, like, is that in London? Yeah, Mom. It's in London. Yeah. That's where the London Marathon is.
Yeah.
So just to be out of the country and doing a marathon.
Yeah, your first one.
Abnormal. Like, I'm really shaking things up. At least it feels like to me. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. So any other goals? You probably have savings goals. You don't have to talk about those. Savings goals, business goals.
I want to start my MBA.
Okay.
So
that's a good one.
Going through the process right now, doing the GMAT, all that good stuff. So start that. And then the only other one that I had was, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but I feel like growing up, I grew up with computers. So everyone was typing, right? Mm-hmm. For all these essays and stuff. Or back in the day, I'm sure you had like a typewriter maybe or something.
Sure, yeah. I did.
Or like a feather pen.
Feather pen, yeah.
My handwriting, I want to have better handwriting. So I don't know if there's a class or something that I need to take, but that is one thing I'm going to focus on is penmanship.
How do you, okay, all right, so how? I'm going
to figure it out. I don't know. I've written enough handwritten letters and looked at them and been disappointed that you look at so many, you start to wonder, hey, we got to do something different.
Right. Did he break his arm in kindergarten?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things I always think about. All right, so how are you going to do that? Right. So you're going to have to find something, whatever. So a couple of mine are, let's see, what do we got here? So so I want to do more like the Guy Spear interview. So I have like a list of people I'm going to reach out to try to like letters of gratitude, things like that. People who I feel like have mentored me from afar, and try to do that. And then I also want to be, and you're going to laugh at this, but like, I want to be more disciplined next year.
Yeah.
Like I want to be like, I want to use my time. I want to be more proactive in the way I use my time. It drives me crazy. Like I saw a stat. I wish I should have wrote it down, but like how much time people spent on their phones last year.
Oh, it's insane.
And it was absurd. It's absurd. So I've already deleted 3 apps that like I felt like wasted my time this year.
Dude, what were the 3 out of here?
And there was some stupid games, like some stupid like, I'd have 5 minutes, I play this little game or whatever type deal.
Okay.
Like what time wasting apps do you have on yours? Like, do you have any games you play? We never had this conversation.
No,
you don't have any games?
I don't have any games. I mean, Instagram, like everybody else. I would say it's Instagram, and I would say X or Twitter.
Yeah.
That might be one of them, but I feel like that the stuff I read is a lot of finance stuff, like I'm learning.
Right.
So I don't want to cut that out, but it was never really games. It's usually social media.
Okay.
That's what I cut out.
That Bermuda Triangle of unproductivity.
Yeah.
It's, I make this joke. I probably made it I make this joke every year in class. Like, we all have like 3 apps that is just the Bermuda Triangle of unproductivity. It's like, no, I can't do that. I'll be busy opening and closing the same 3 apps for the next 4 hours. Sorry, I'm busy. That kind of thing, where it's just that constant check. So I don't know. I'm trying to come up with like, maybe this is nothing I've honed in. This is just me. Like I'll scroll Instagram. I'll see a post that annoys me, and then I close the app. Like maybe that's the idea.
Yeah.
You know, like something like as soon as you see something that's like, okay, that's not the emotion I want, I'm done.
Well, they have the timer on it, right? So you can limit yourself, which I do, but you could always cancel it as soon as you hit the limit.
Wait a minute. Is that a setting on Instagram?
It's a setting, yeah. So it'll
I've never even seen it. I've never even seen the setting. This is the old man thing.
It really, because it's funny.
So what does it do? Give you an alarm?
No, it will lock you out. A window will come up and it'll say, postpone for 5 minutes, 15 minutes.
So it's basically like a snooze.
Yeah, but it locks you out. You can't hit the app.
But if you
snooze the app, I guess. Yeah.
But if you wait a minute, snoozes the app.
So
snoozes the app.
Yeah. So the app will go dark on your home screen.
Okay.
And if you go to it, it'll bring it to a lock window and it'll say, back out
old.
Or snooze for 5 minutes, snooze 15, or indefinitely for the rest of the day.
Okay.
Which that button gets hit often on my phone.
I'm pretty sure the indefinitely is just that's probably that should not be a choice.
No.
Because I remember a couple of years ago, didn't you set a goal like when you were first on that you're going to put your phone across the room or something in the morning or something or at night or I don't know.
Yeah, I think I did.
I don't do that.
That's how good the goal was. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, I think that's not a big deal. Like, because I listen to so many books, like I'm going to take my phone to bed.
You're the only person I know because you wear headphones to bed.
Yeah.
That is that's kind of crazy. You wear headphones to sleep. Like things are playing in your ears while you're dozing off.
Well, yeah, but I always use a sleep timer on the books that I'm listening to so that I don't like wake up 3 hours later and there be like stuff going. I listen to a book all the time. Like I bought an electric mower so I could listen to a book while I mow the grass. I'm that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm running, I'll listen to songs. I'll listen to like 3 songs, and then I go to a book or something else generally.
I'm a competitive guy. Some of these things you say, I'm like, oh, there's zero chance I can keep up with that. Going to sleep. Oh, yeah, I got Guy Spear book playing for the 14th time just because I want to, take it all in this time. It's like
I am that obsessive. Like I'm more obsessive than most people probably think. Like I'm very like I have to like. Most people know me funny, like happy-go-lucky dude, but like I really dial in. Like I really, really do.
Were you always like that as a kid? What was like the obsessive stuff you did?
Well, sports. Like my wife will tell you, like she didn't know that most of the people did not know that I was in the National Honor Society until I graduated and they saw the like thing around my neck. Mm-hmm. Because all I cared about was sports. It was sports. Like I was just so dedicated, and then I just took that and I repositioned it to another area. So, but I think about like you have to use your time. Like you don't have that much time, and we just spend it on like devices, which is so ironic because where's this podcast going to go, Cameron?
A device.
It's going to go on Instagram.
But this podcast
it's all
is
for
different.
The gram.
This is a different one. We're changing hearts and minds.
Yeah. But it's, but you can control. I feel like me too. Like I'm not putting this on anybody else. Like this is for myself. You control the content that comes into your brain. So if you don't have good content coming in, it's garbage in, garbage out. But you cannot live off mental candy. Like you have to have some substance there.
Yeah.
And I just I want to make sure that I'm proactive on that.
That is so important. Okay, so you added the goal of you want to be more disciplined. I think you're a very disciplined guy, but I totally get that. I would think I really do cut out a lot of the content, the unnecessary stuff, but I think I want to add that one to it because that really is I could be doing better on it, but that is such an important piece. Like I used to work for a guy a long time ago that used to say, you are the story you tell yourself when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
The content or whatever you're having, those thoughts in your mind, that is how your day is going to play out, whether you believe it or not. But to me, it really has shaped a lot of my days, right? So having the right content coming in and using, instead of, listening to the new two friends mix while I run, I should listen to a book, an audio book or something, because I'm going to be on this trail for an hour and a half.
Right.
I can get through some pages.
Time. It's so much time. I mean, I get it. My wife, she can't she's not going to be with me on this journey. Like she doesn't she wants to listen to music. I get it, but I'll listen to 3 or 4 songs to get into a run, especially a long run, and then I switch. Because at some point, the music just becomes noise to me. But in the beginning, it helps set my pace and all that kind of good stuff. Mm-hmm. And then later on, it'll go. But like, you brought up the thing. Oh, you listen to books before you go to sleep. Yeah, because I want the stuff that I'm thinking about before I go to bed. I want the last stuff that I think about. What do most people do? Not young people. Think about old people. What's the last thing that people see or hear before they go to bed?
The night news. I don't know.
The nightly
really?
news. The nightly news.
Oh, that was a total just jab at old people.
Yeah, okay. But think about the nightly news. But what is the nightly news telling you?
Oh, there was a robbery down the street.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. They're not reporting the good things. Falling. And then how do they start their day?
The morning news.
The morning news, which is all the bad stuff that happened while they were sleeping. Like, so you have to protect, like, the gate to your mind. You have to protect that. Like, you have to.
You have to. I agree.
Because you are, like, you become what you think about, all of those things. So you have to protect that. So in 2025, like, you have to think about, like, the content that you bring into your brain. And it makes me, like, so when I talk about things that annoy me, like, we talked about it just before this podcast. But I'll go read, like, I'll look at a news source. It'll be like the Wall Street Journal, something I really want to read. And the article is just absolute clickbait to something that's not even finance related.
Yeah. Yeah. So. No, I think that's a good point. I just had another thought too. It's still on this goals piece. But I was reading an article earlier because I was like preparing for the podcast and looking at my goals and figuring out which ones I want to share. One of the articles was talking about a good exercise is to go to someone that is close to you in your life and saying, hey, here's my goals. What's the one thing you would add? Right? What's the one thing you would add to my goal sheet if you were me? So, little exercise here. I'm going to throw it on you. For me, what's the one thing you would add?
It's really hard for you to do that on the spot because all I'm thinking about is like 3 funny things.
Well, we'll skip those. Get to number 4.
So the big one was because I know you so well, the one you said you wanted to start your MBA.
Yeah.
That's the one where I'd be like, you got to apply to, like, you can't just be honing in on one school. Like, you got to hone in on, like, you got to apply to like 4 schools at once.
Got it. Okay.
And you have to say, you have to say, like, I want to be enrolled by this date. Because this is specific. This is the thing where, like, I have this goal for 2025 and I enrolled on December 30th at 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so people put that goal out there, but then they hit it in the last,
cheated.
like, exactly. So it's like, I want to be enrolled in an MBA program by summer. Or, whenever. Like, it's weird now because of all the rolling enrollments.
Yeah.
So some schools have rolling enrollments and some schools don't.
Yeah. Okay.
But that would be the one is like, okay.
So you would change
like,
that?
I would say, like, I want to make sure, like, because the thing is, if you apply to one school, you don't get in, then you're like, okay, well, how do I get into the next, like, all of a sudden,
of course I'm going to get in, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. First time's a charm.
Yeah.
Okay. All
right. I mean, like, so doing something like that, if you really want to do it, you have to have some kind of, like, backup plan.
Got it. Okay. I like that. I'll make the change.
And then, I'm supposed to stop there? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you got another one, I'll take it, man.
That would be the one thing.
Okay.
So, but I mean, let's give it back.
I'll give it back.
Insert
Jeopardy music.
Insert Jeopardy hold music.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's tough because the things that make you are that you are like me where you move the goalpost in yourself and it's so easy from the outside looking in to tell you not to do that. Where it's like you hit a goal and then it's on to the next one.
Right.
And I think, I don't know, in this business, you talk to a lot of older people, right? And you get that perspective. And the one thing I think I've heard most this year is just taking a moment and realizing, like, taking a moment where you're at. So, like, after the guy spear one, right? I'm sure you had a point at some point in the flight home, maybe, or you just thought about who am I going to interview next. But, like, thinking about how, like, just taking a moment and taking it in, like, just the thought, the feeling, everything that has led you to that point when 10 years ago you were wondering, how am I going to get to, 10 clients or whatever?
Right.
And now you've built this fantastic business, and you're interviewing one of the top finance guys, the guys you used to look up to and study and still do.
Yeah.
Like, take me a moment to take that in.
Yeah, it's a little that is a little odd. I mean, it is a little surreal. That moment was really surreal, but it also like that actually, kind of lit a flame under me a little bit, like that I haven't felt for a while, since I was like back then when I read that book, that like, man, so many things are possible. I think that's such a cool thing. It's one of the reasons why I love New Year's, is because so many things are possible, right? I think that's why so many people enjoy New Year's, is because it's like, man, you have the possibility of a new year.
New year, new me.
Yeah. That's the famous last words, right?
Yeah.
So I think the lesson for most people is to set goals for yourself that push you a little bit, that maybe you're a little nervous to put down. I told you that I've been setting goals. This is so weird, but setting goals for when I'm 70 years old. Like, where do I want to be, which is crazy, like 27 years from now.
That's wild.
But thinking about like, okay, like, and doing something for yourself that you think the older version of you will be proud of. Like the 40-year-old version of Cameron is going to be like, man, I'm glad I did that, right?
That is such a good, like, I don't know, you test a model to follow. Like, you test whatever your goal is against that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
So I think those things are kind of key. And then also be present in the moment, be appreciative of what you have, starting with gratitude, thinking about the things that were good that happened to you this year, and then thinking for what your goals are and then areas for improvement. So, but I appreciate you joining us for all the times in 2024. And here's the 2025, my friend. You got anything else?
That's good. That's going to do it.
All right.
Cheers.
So we'll see you next time. And as always, don't mistake activity for achievement.